I made a video a while back teaching this, being the red velvet trifle couplet, and following the posting of that video, I got a lot of feedbacks and requests asking me to make a longer version of that particular video, teaching the step-by-step guide on how I achieve it. And so today I have decided to do just that, as well as to also add up my chocolate cake trifle option of the trifle couplet, so that you all can have two options at your disposal. So you will all come along with me as I teach you the both of them. And have you subscribed to my YouTube channel yet? If you haven't, make sure you hit that subscribe button now, and also turn on your notification to get all of my videos that I post weekly. So we'll go right into it now, and we're first going to be talking about the ingredients that I have placed on this table. So the first thing we're going to be talking about will be the ingredients for the red velvet trifle. First, most importantly, is the crumbled red velvet cake, as you see here. And of course, we're going to be using some caramel filling. I already added this to make it easy for me to add it into the cups. And we're going to be working with some crushed chocolate, as well as red velvet custard cream that I already made behind the camera. Now we're going to also be needing a hand blender of any nature to be able to aerate that custard cream before we use it up into the cup, because it gets a bit clumpy and you want it to be as smooth as possible. And so going on to the chocolate version now, we're going to be using also some chocolate crumbs, but of course I left it in the solid form because I wanted to show you all that it's very possible for you to work with your trifle using solid cakes, as well as you can use the crumbs from your leftover cakes. But today I only just decided to keep it whole, so I will show you the process of how I crumble it all up to be able to be used for the trifles. And of course we have the chocolate cream custard here, also already prepared behind the camera. We have some crushed chocolate, and we have some crushed cookies as well, and of course we have some chocolate syrup that is going to add some extra vibe, to the trifle couplets. Now don't forget that the couplets come in about 420 ml size. It comes in round, but today I'm going to be working with a square shape because they come with a lid and gets it very handy to be handed off to your clients for delivery purposes. And have you subscribed to my YouTube channel yet? If you haven't, make sure you hit that subscribe button now and turn on your notification to get subsequent videos like this, and always stay close to drop your shares and comments under the comment box to engage under the post. Now let's go right into the making of the trifles now. First thing we're going to be working on is the red velvet trifle. We have the crumbs already ready, and so I'm just going to be going ahead to layer everything now. And the next one, we're going to be working with this obviously. And why I always add some bit of warm water over the custard cream when I make them is because I do not want them to cuddle up. But in case they cuddle up, that's why my hand blender comes very handy to smoothen everything out before I use it. So the first thing I'm going to be doing now is to try and run this through so that it can get smooth and even out. So what I'm doing now is just to get this through. The reason for the hand blender is because it would give you the balance and the control you need to give the cream the needed texture that it needs. Something a stand blender might not be able to achieve for you, or a hand mixer. So you all can see that it's getting smooth now. So I have what I need now, and the consistency I need now. You can see it's no longer thick and clumped up, and so I'll just simply set this aside and get it ready to use. Alright, so I am going to be working with two couplets in this video, so I'll be making them at the same time so that you all can know how to multitask. Should in case you have a whole lot of order, you don't have to finish one before you start up the other one from the scratch. So what we're doing now is to get the spoonful of the trifle red velvet crumb. It goes in, and once that goes in, I always use 2 tablespoons So the idea behind this is to get it well compressed and firm, so that when the entire layering is done, it can have a beautiful, well-defined appeal. So that's what we have. That's what I'm trying to do now. So I will be working as quickly as possible, but this is it. And then I always try to make sure that all of them have the same level of crumbs per layer as much as possible. That's why the fact that I always eyeball, so there might be a few differences, but it won't be something so noticeable. So I'm going in now. This is about 2 heaps of tablespoons, and I'm compressing. This is why it is very important for you to use a very good moist red velvet cake recipe, like the one I have already up in my channel, that will give you this kind of result that will make the cake look just like this when you put the first layer. You can see how moist it is, and it's not crumbly in any way possible. So this guarantees you a perfect result. This is the first one. I forgot to mention that I'm going to be using stable whipped cream, of course. So this is it right here. This is the one I'm going to be using. That is the plain stable whipped cream. And for the chocolate one, I'm going to be using the chocolate whipped cream frosting. So we'll get to that later. Okay, so this is how you're going to use your piping bag to press this. You can't just pour it in because it's not going to give you the defined lines that you want it to give you. So you're going to go like this, something like this. Just make sure that the cream is touching the sides, just as I just did now. You drop that, and then the next thing you're going to be adding is going to be, okay, like I said, I'm going to be working interchangeably. So I'll do the second one also, same thing, and then it looks like that. And then the next thing is I will be adding caramel. So it's just going to go directly over the cream like this, just like this. And then the second time, we're working with color contrast here, so that's what we have here. So you keep, that's the only time the filling is going to go in. And then we're going to go in with another batch of the red velvet crumbs, like this. Goes in. This time around, we're not going to press in so tightly because you don't want it to interact or interfere too much with the filling. You just want it to be layered nicely, like this. See what I have? Okay. We'll repeat the process with the other one, like this, like this. Yeah. Okay. Just like this. I hope you all are seeing what I'm doing. It's something that you have to take your time to prepare, pack up. The only thing is the reward is always nice, and you always like what you see, and your clients would always like it. So it's something worth the try. And the thing about it is, the more you try it out, the faster you are to work with them, because you'll be able to master the tricks and all of that. So the next thing going in will be another layer of the whipped cream, like this. Repeat that. Okay, so this is what we have now. So the next thing that will be going in now will be a spoonful or thereabout of the red velvet custard cream. I'm just going to pour this in directly. Okay, so it goes in, not too much, so then you allow it to spread out by itself. That's what we have here. All right, and I drop the rest, and I just simply swish it like this by myself, so it can reflect like I am doing here, like this, like this, like this. So what we have, and then we're going to be adding the final layer of the cake. So more like you're eating cake and custard, cake and filling. So it's going to go in. So you have to make sure that whatever it is that you are serving your people is something very delicious to consume. You don't just work with just about anything that comes to mind. We all know that custard and cake is always a good idea, so that's the reason why it's my filling of choice in this recipe. So we're getting to the top now, and in as much as I'm working, I'm trying my best to make sure it's not so filled up that it has to get muddled up when I cover it up. So at this point now, the final bit of cream that's going to go on it is not going to be a whole lot. You see? Okay, I guess this is coming out nicely. So at this point now, I'm going to be adding the final bit of cream, but this time around I'm going to be working with the cream that has the nozzle, so it can have a bit of some decorative effects, not just look plain. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm just going to pipe this, you know, so it can just look decorative. And I deliberately didn't put at the center just because I don't want it to get too messy. So I repeat the same process for this one and do something like this. So at this point, I'll just go ahead to just add up some chocolate bits into the center. That's what gives it the extra vibe. All right, like this, to seal up that part, just as seen here. That's what we are doing, and repeat it for this one too. Okay, you can use any chocolate of choice, all right, anything, as long as it is very tasty and goes well. So at this point now, the last thing we're going to be doing would now just to add up a little bit of the red velvet crumbs on top, you know, so that when you open it up for the first time, it's going to look really enticing and really yummy even before you try to eat it. So that's what we have, and this is the second one. This is it. So this is how I make it. So some people always ask me, is this what I do for every batch I make? And yes, please, that's how I do it. I don't try to go about it any other way. This is the only way I can go about it to guarantee you the result that is needed. So I just get to clean off my hands now. What I now do at this point is just to clean it up nicely to make sure that everything is all in and to make it as neat as possible. And this is what you have. Okay, so this is what the cover looks like. So at this point, this is what you do. You just simply cover it nicely. And of course, if you're going to be branding it, of course, this is the point where you can put your seal or your tag or your logo or anything on it, and it's good to go to be sold. This is exactly what it looks like. So the only thing you need to do now is just to pop this into the freezer for at least 1 week, and it would keep just as fine, because everything inside of this trifle, it has a long shelf life. And of course, the colder it is, the more tasty it gets, because everything now settles in very nicely, and you know, gives you that brilliant result you need. So this is the second one, and of course, this is what we have. So we are starting the second process now, and just the way I did the first time, I'm going to be throwing this out so that all the lumps can all go out, and then it can be as smooth as possible before I can then use it. So for this part of this video, I will be teaching you very quickly how to get everything all mashed up. unlike the other one that was already done. So you can always use a whole cake. You can bake a cake specifically for this purpose, especially if you have a lot of order and you are not relying on only crumbs. So you can use a solid whole cake, and then all you need to do is allow it to come to room temperature, and then you go ahead to just mash it all up. If you're on gloves, you can always use your hands to do that, and then it goes from that solid state to this. I mean, it has to go into the total crumb state for you to be able to work it into the cups and achieve the result that you want it to achieve. So very briefly, I left this out to sit out for a long time, and that's why it has come to the temperature that I want, and then it's just nice. So we are going ahead to layer it all up together now. Note that my chocolate cake trifle is a lot more expensive than my red velvet trifle, because in the course of the video you all will know why, because it contains a whole lot more ingredients. Like, it has the crushed cookies in between the layers, somewhere hiding in there, and of course, you know, the more fillings you add into it, the more expensive it's going to be, logically. So the first thing we're going to do is just the way we did it with the red velvet, is to start off with the cake as the base of the trifle. The reason why I'm doing it in this way is because to make sure that even whilst it is in transit, it doesn't get all muddled up and look messy should in case you start up the process with a custard or a cream. So this sits very well underneath, so even if you turn it all around, it's still going to look very presentable and neat and clean up until the point when it's going to be taken or received by the client or whoever it is you're sending it to. So very quickly we're doing this, and so like I said, you pour and you press. This right here is a fantastic business idea, especially for those who want to encourage their clients, okay, to patronize them for smaller cake bits or smaller cake treats, for you to understand. Or, you know, there are sometimes that some clients will ask you, do you have anything smaller that, you know, you can offer us before we are convinced that your cake is good? So this is a good idea. Better still, you are going to be adding fillings and stuff, but just know that if you are going through this route, you have to still charge accordingly for it. There are actually trifle options that go with just the cream, but I always like it very interesting, and that's why I devised a means of adding fillings into mine, so that it can taste just the way it will have tasted if you're buying a whole cake from me. So the next thing that's going to be going in now is the chocolate cream, already prepared behind camera too. I'll pipe this in very neatly also, like this. Can you see what it looks like? And then I'll repeat the process also again. Remember, I told you that I'm doing this just to show you all how to multitask. And when I do this now, the next thing I'm going to be adding is going to be the chocolate syrup. You can use any brand of your choice, but I always personally prefer the one that is slightly thickened, like this brand. So it helps it not to be runny or so messy. So all you need to do is just to pour it in like this. Okay, see that? You really don't have to worry about it touching the side, and that's because it's going to run all the way down. It's a syrup. So before we are done, it's all going to go all in. Okay, so this is what it looks like. So at this point now, what I'm going to now do is to add up, you know, the crushed, see that, cookies into it. It goes in. It goes in no particular order, but I mean, just make sure that you're generous enough to make them feel the texture when they're eating it. And then the next thing you're going to be adding is going to be another layer of cake. This more like seals in that what is that called, the cookies, sorry, I mean, so that nobody knows what is going on. You can't even see it. It is when you dig in that you know that, oh, there is something interesting going on in this trifle. Can you see what I'm saying? After I'm done with this, then I'll go in with the layer of the custard, the chocolate cream custard. Same. Okay. Now note that before you charge for this particular trifle, regardless of if it is chocolate or red velvet trifle, you have to understand that the kind of cup or your serving whatever is put into consideration, and that's because, for instance, now I've done this with the round shaped trifle cups. Those are a lot cheaper because they don't take on as much cream, as much cake, as much filling as a square shaped one would. So obviously, if you're going to be charging for that, you know that you're going to be charging higher for this kind of shape rather than the round one. So as always, I'm just going to put a scoop of this inside of it like this, and another scoop. If I'm not satisfied with the quantity, I just need to add a little more. I mean, just enough to coat around the sides to make sure that it is well distributed like this. This is slightly thicker than the one of the red velvet, so you see that you're just going to have to distribute it like this. See what it looks like. I love the balance of the colors. There's a color shade here, there's another one here, there's another one here, and then there's this another one here. So after you do this, you go in with another layer of cream, a very thin layer of cream, by the way, like this, something like this. Okay, and again we do this. So you can see that the layering style is slightly different from the other one. That's the reason why you can't just run off thinking, oh, it's the same thing. Doesn't taste the same, and the layering style is definitely not the same too. So we're almost done with this. You can very well use your hands if they're clean, or you use your spoon, or use your gloved hands, depending on what is most convenient. And make sure that your hands are clean, or your gloves are clean, whatever it is you want to use. This is edible stuff, so you have to be very careful when you're working with it, you know, because your hygiene is very important. That's the most important thing anyway. So at this point, like I said, after adding everything, you don't need to overly press it in. The only time when you need to press it all in firmly is the very first layer, so that it can go in well to hold up others very nicely. And this is what we have, and then we're going to be going in with the final piping on it like this, in no particular order. Just make sure it's all covered up like this, like I did the first one, and then like this again, all covered up, all covered up. Yeah. And then of course at this point we're going to be adding some crushed dark chocolate into it, right, like this. So you can imagine having the cake having crushed cookies inside and still having crushed chunks of chocolate inside. So it's a luxury option. And then usually sometimes I decide to add this, depending, just give it a slight drizzling. Can you see that? To get it more interesting. See that? Yeah. And there you have it. The chocolate trifle is ready. Okay, so now I'm covering it as always. That's the perfect icing on the cake. So that's going to be it for the chocolate trifle. So this brings us to the end of this amazing class. First of all, let me know in the comments which one you'd rather have. Is it the red velvet trifle or the chocolate trifle? I personally will not let you know which is my favorite, because I definitely have a favorite, but I won't tell you. Let me know in the comment section your preference based on the feelings and, you know, everything that went into each of the options. Thank you all for sticking by and watching all my videos and engaging on my posts. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't done that already. Turn on your notification also, so that for every time I drop a content as this, you all will be the first to get a grip of it. And don't forget to share with your family and friends as well. Till next time, I remain your favorite baker girl. Stay close to the next class. Bye. So just spoonful. I changed my mind, guys. I'm going to tell you my favorites. I think I like this one better.